Chair, you are now live.
Good afternoon. I'm Chair Aaron Griffin, and I would like to welcome you to the October 14, 2021 African American Heritage Commission virtual meeting. We now call our meeting to order. The City County African American Heritage Commission consists of 9 members. 3 of those members are appointed by the Asheville City Council, 3 appointed by the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners, and 3 appointed by 6 appointed members. The commission is to advise the City Council and County Commissioners about the preservation, interpretation, and promotion of African American arts, history, and culture. All committee members, staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through our committee meetings a bit differently. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone by dialing 855-925-2801 and entering meeting code 9409. For those of you who plan to speak during our live public comment today, you will need to hit *3 to be put in the speaker queue. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. I will go through and introduce all committee members and staff who are participating virtually. For our committee members, please make sure to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. When you have a question or would like to speak, please click or raise your hand and recognized by the chair. Unmute your microphone. Please remember to mute your phone after you are done speaking. Committee members, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Aaron Griffin, hello. Dwayne Barton.
Hello.
Michael Hayes.
Hello.
Beverly Miller, Vice Chair.
Hello.
Catherine Mitchell. Brandon Oliver. Georgia Shannon. Lynn Michelle Smith. And I would like to welcome our newest member, Stephen J. Blunt.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good, and yourself?
Well, Brenda Mills, Interim Equity and Inclusion Director of City of Asheville.
Good evening.
Leonard Jones, Community Engagement Specialist, Buncombe County.
Hello.
Sandra Kilgore, City Council Liaison.
Good evening.
Good evening. Stephanie Dahl. Did I say that right? Okay. Natalie Bailey.
Good evening.
And Eric Jackson.
Good evening.
To help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of the agenda aloud. Again, I ask committee members to click, raise hand, or recognize to speak. Please state your name each time you comment. Just a reminder that the public is listening on the phone, and this keeps them up to date on the order of the meeting and who is commenting or speaking. Approval of minutes of September the 9th, 2021. It's an action needed to approve. Do we have a quorum? We do. So we need to take an action to approve the minutes of September the 9th.
I motion that we approve the minutes from September the 9th.
I second.
Okay. Staff update. Brenda Mills, staff liaison.
Chair Griffin, let's just go
Yes.
back to the minutes. You have, it's been moved and properly seconded that you approve the minutes.
Okay,
Ask for discussion. If there is none, then you need to take a roll call vote. You have to call every member's name that's here so that they can vote. Verbally. They have to vote verbally. You're doing great. Go for it.
okay. So, the minutes have been approved. Dwayne Barton,
Yes.
Michael Hayes,
Yay.
Beverly Miller,
Yay.
Georgia Shannon, no, Aaron Griffin, yay. And I think that's it, right?
I thought I saw Brandon join.
Brandon Oliver.
Yay.
Okay. So now we have the staff update.
Okay, well, I just have a few small updates. There's an item on new business that I'll cover later. Basically, we're getting ready to kick off. I don't know how many of you were able to watch the update at this last city council meeting on Tuesday, but our project management company, Tequity, Ms. Deborah Clark Jones gave an update to city council about, the reparations project, what we expect to do, a timeline. We are kicking that off on Monday, October 18th. You should expect to receive, if all goes well, you should get a text and you should get an email from me updating you on where we are. And we will expect all of you to participate fully, either by applying to be on the commission for one of the impact areas or being nominated through your neighborhood to serve, or just being a participant to attend and provide feedback. The other item I have is that you all had talked about having presentations by local historians and other groups that might be able to add to what you are doing as the African American Heritage Commission. Did not have time, between me and Ms. Catherine, we did not have time to do that. I will start that process Monday and look to see if we can get the North Carolina African American Heritage person back for you, the Preservation Society, and I believe there was one other organization, and we'll see about having that on your next agenda item. That is it for the staff report, unless I have any questions.
This is Dwayne. We also said we wanted to get a list of projects, current, past, and future projects that was focusing on African American history and culture with the city, the county, etc.
I think that is in my notes, so I will see what I can do. That is not a document that's completed, but I will see what I can do. I think that is here. Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Barton.
All right, cool.
All right, new business. We have, I'd like to welcome our presenters to the meeting, and we can queue up their presentations at this time. African American Heritage Commission Memorial Project Funding.
You know what, Chair Griffin, I'm sorry. Stephanie did not join the meeting.
Okay.
And I did not hear from her, but she has had some family issues that she's been dealing with, pretty serious. She's had to travel out of town, so I'm not sure what happened. If we could move that to the next meeting. If you want to have a little discussion about it, we can, and just kind of update people on what this is about. I'll be glad to kind of help with that. and then we'll have a presentation from her next meeting, if that's what you'd like to do.
Yes, that'll be fine.
Okay. So the Stephanie Dahl oversees the public art program and the is liaison to the Public Art and Cultural Commission. I believe you all remember sometime around 2013, 2014, the 26 North Carolina partnered with the city to do a maintenance project with Vance Monument. It basically needed to be remortared and some other things done. We actually had put a time capsule in there, which was removed when it was taken down this past year. As part of that, the African American Heritage Commission at the time really wanted to do something to commemorate African American art in the same area. It was a lot of discussions, and the mayor, we spoke with the mayor, the city manager at the time spoke to the mayor, and we said, so why don't the city give a certain amount of money? It was approved $10,000. County provided that same amount of money. Because at first we said matching to match what you would fundraise, but they just gave the money. That has been about 7 years. We've not had any movement on that. Typically because you've had movement in your board, and we had a little pandemic last year, and it's a few other things that have been going on. She was coming to you to ask what you'd like, what your pleasure would be in using those funds. So what we could do in the interim is I will get with Ms. Dahl to talk to her about any other ideas she had. She was going to provide some ideas and then kind of brainstorm with you. So if you'll read that information, I will get with her and follow up with an email to you all about some possible next steps. And then if nothing happens, we'll have a presentation to you in your November meeting. Also, our other staff liaison, Leonard Jones, was going to check with the county on their funding as well. So we'll have that update for you next time. Is there any questions right now? Okay.
All right, we'll move on to the Office of Data and Performance presentation. Natalie Bailey and Eric Jackson.
Hello, everybody. We have a brief presentation for you all. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see.
Is it ready?
No technical difficulties. All right. Good evening. We are the Office of Data and Performance housed within IT Services. We want to start off with some brief introductions. I'm going to turn it over to Eric so he can introduce himself.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Eric Jackson. I'm the manager of the Office of Data and Performance, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
Again, I'm Natalie Bailey. I am the Data Communication Specialist here at ODAP, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi there, my name is Cameron Henshaw. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the Performance Analyst in the Office of Data and Performance.
So we are going to just briefly go over the agenda. We're going to tell you who we are, how we work, and some of our current projects, and share with you all a tool that we use that you all could use to conduct your work as commission members on this particular commission, and hopefully have a little bit of time for discussion. I'm going to turn it over to Eric to talk about our mission.
So what you see on the screen there, to empower community and city staff to use data for equitable outcomes, accountability, and communication, is the mission statement for the office. And I want to emphasize kind of three pieces of that. And the first is that word empower. One thing you could do with an office of data is kind of turn it into a service. You give us your data, we'll do the analysis, hand it back, and that's not what we do. Our job is primarily to enable others to do the work. And second point I want to kind of emphasize is that we're not just an internal department. We obviously are here to help staff use data to do a better job and be more accountable for the results of what we do. But we're also directly see ourselves as in service to the community. So our goal is also to make a difference in the community's ability to advocate for themselves using data. And then the third piece I want to underscore is kind of what's it all for? And at the center of that is accountability. We want to make sure that we're delivering the results we commit to and ensuring that we're doing that in an equitable way. And then one of the things, if we are coming to agreement about what the outcomes are that we're looking to achieve, and we've agreed on how we're going to measure whether we're being successful, that is the foundation for good communication among staff and between staff and the community. And so communication is a really big part of our thinking through everything we do. Hand it back to you, Natalie.
All right. So how does ODAP work? And that's what we call ourselves internally and externally as well, ODAP. We focus on these 4 bullet points. I'm going to take the first 2, then turn it over to Eric. But as Eric stated in the last bullet point, communication. And communication is at the center of our public engagement and reporting. And so why do we do public engagement? It is to gather data, not necessarily in numerical form, which is really important and which people think of initially when you say the word data and data-driven, you think it's going to be a conversation about numbers. But narrative data is also important as well. It informs our work in ways that leads us to looking at different avenues of gathering numerical data. And so in gathering that information, we use a standardized way of reporting the data, and that's done for equity reasons as well. We want everybody to receive the same information in the same manner that is accessible. And so that leads to the second bullet point under public engagement and reporting, and that is creating ways for the community to participate in defining what success is in any type of city service or program. Folks that live in communities are the expert in their communities, and they know firsthand what will work for them, what their needs are, and what the desired outcomes they would like to achieve in any type of joint effort between the city and the community in which they live. And our second point, is data-informed decision-making. So all of this is done with a collaborative spirit in mind, internally and externally. And so we want to take data, and we do take data, and we integrate it into a decision-making process that informs all of our processes. And the most recent and most public process as of late is the budget process. And that was a collaborative effort between our communication and public engagement team, ODAP, the budget, and equity. And so I'm going to turn it over to Eric so he can expound upon that a little more.
So I have now been in government over 5 years. And one of the things that I've learned is that if it isn't tied into a process, it really isn't going to be sustainable. And so we're trying to help people change how they do what they do, which is hard in and of itself, but that means building it into their normal processes. The premier process for city government is the city budget. And so that's been our first area of focus, is to make sure that we're thinking about data. And when I say thinking about data, I mean, what are the outcomes and how are we going to tell if we're achieving them? How are we going to measure whether we're being successful? You need to build that into the budget process, the procurement process, whatever process it is in any given department, if you're going to actually see that change be sustained. And that takes me into the capacity building. If we're asking people to make a big change, then we have to help them learn how to do it. And so we run classes. We have a combination of kind of training and facilitation that we're developing for working with teams. We have a newsletter, internal newsletter that goes out a couple of times a month, and an internal kind of discussion channel and monthly collaboration group where different staff members can come and bring their challenges around data and performance thinking and brainstorm with their colleagues about that. And then the last thing we do under governance, I'm not going to talk a lot about, it's not something that gets people really excited, but it's really foundational. You need data systems that are going to make sure that you get data that's up to date. You need processes and procedures to make sure that that information is accurate, that it's complete. And you need to make sure that you're protecting both against malicious actors, people who are out to try and get their hands on your data in order to exploit it in negative ways. That's a big deal these days. But also to make sure that you're asking the right questions to make sure that you're not accidentally doing harm by either putting data out there that shouldn't be out there or using it in ways that are not actually serving the community well. Go ahead.
Okay.
So just to kind of bring this down and make it a little more concrete, I could talk for a long time about any one of these, which I will not impose on you. But just to kind of quickly go over some of the things we're working on. We want to make sure that we are supporting key initiatives. So obviously Reparations is going on right now, and ODAP is supporting that by helping to gather some data that can be used by the commission, and any other ways that we can help that process along. We're making large investments right now around houselessness, so we're making sure we're working with folks in our homelessness services group to do a better job of reporting the data we have, and then making sure we're looking at outcomes and how we're going to measure them for those investments. And we've generally, over the last couple of years, last year for the official office, but really as part of our data effort, really making sure that we're a resource for the equity and inclusion efforts throughout the city, and for Ms. Mills at the moment in particular. And then, supporting, we've worked with the Business Inclusion Office. We're involved in the current efforts around the American Rescue Plan. As Natalie said, the budget process last year and this coming year, we're involved. The capacity building I've talked about, and the governance I just talked about. So I'll let Natalie talk a little bit more about our engagement efforts.
So our engagement efforts have been internal and external. This is an example of an engagement effort. We have spoken to a few boards and commissions about who we are and what we do, and some of the tools and methodologies that we use. But we have also been engaged in conversations since the spring of the year. We've spoken with folks throughout the community, nonprofit leaders, neighborhood leaders, stakeholders, and certain organizations and representatives of certain groups in different industries that are our community members. And that was done for benchmarking purposes. Again, this is all about information gathering and the narrative form that could lead us to look at different issues and look at different projects to basically see what it is, how they will impact the folks that live in our community, neighborhoods, and the like. And so that benchmarking centered around 3 questions that was basically about city services or any perceived access to city services. And again, this is an ongoing effort. And we took those things, what we've learned, and it informed our work, and it will continue to inform our work. And it's just an example of the necessary efforts it takes to engage with the community and keep communication going as a two-way street. So we can learn, we can take that information and disseminate it to whomever needs it within the organization, so they can improve and inform their work, and then also take information back to the community that is needed. This goes on a regular basis, and it is something that we are committed to as a team. So
it's really easy to say we're gonna use data and make sure that we're making decisions using it. That's easy to say and hard to do, and you kind of need a structure to help support how you're going to actually do that. And the structure that we've adopted is something called results-based accountability. I don't know if I'm curious, have any of you on the commission, are you familiar with RBA, results-based accountability at all? I'm getting blank looks, so I assume not. It's been used quite a bit in public health locally and has started to move into education. The reason we've adopted it, there are a couple of reasons. Literally the first week I got here, I was asked to take a look at the Government Alliance on Racial Equity Toolkit, and look for ways that we in IT could support the use of that tool. And it turns out that the Racial Equity Toolkit is in fact built on top of the results-based accountability framework. The second reason, and so that we've adapted the tool, it made sense to go ahead and adopt the framework as well. The second reason, though, that I really like it and that I think it's a powerful tool for us to use is that it's really pretty simple. It's really about asking some basic questions at the right time as a standard process. And we've got a slightly simplified version of those questions here. I'm giving you 4 instead of 7. But you can kind of see, you start by focusing on the ends you're trying to achieve, by asking, how do we want our community or our customers, if we're a service, how do we want them to be better off? So we start by naming what are those results, what are those outcomes that we're trying to achieve. And then the second question is, how do we know if we're succeeding? And that's all about identifying an objective way to track whether we're getting the results we wanted to get. Those can be performance measures, they can be numbers. That's not the only possible way to do it. What we want to do is make sure that we're asking ourselves the question, do we see concrete objective evidence that what we're doing is working? As we're kicking off an initiative, we also want to do what in RBA is called establish a baseline, which often just means asking where we are right now. RBA takes that one step further by saying, where are we right now and what will happen if we don't change what we're doing? So we may be able to say, if we don't do anything different, then things are going to get worse. Let's say numbers are going up that we don't want to go up. That allows us to kind of focus then on how do we want to turn that curve? How do we want to make those numbers go down, or whatever it is we want to do. It also allows us to ask the question at any point, is this good enough? Because there are lots of priorities that we're trying to take on. Sometimes we have to say, you know what, this is not the most important. We're okay with the way things are, and we're going to focus elsewhere. Once we've decided that we're not okay with the way things are, and we know where we're trying to go and how we're going to measure it, then we start to say, what are the strategies we're going to use in order to get there? And that whole thing is a cycle. So we've identified strategies, we start to execute, and we come back and say, let's look at those performance measures. How are we doing? Are we succeeding? If so, great. If not, we can assume that we're going to continue to not succeed if we continue to do what we're doing. So let's ask ourselves, what do we want to do different, and cycle back around. So what does this have to do with you? I think the first is, these are questions that apply to many things that we do, and certainly the work that you all are doing as part of this commission, as well as just as leaders in your communities. So asking yourselves those questions, these are useful things to do to make sure that we're thinking about where we're trying to get and how we tell if we're succeeding. You can ask staff these questions. These are how we are trying to equip the community to hold us accountable. So ask, what results are you trying to achieve? How are we going to know if you're doing it, and so on. And then hopefully to use within your own communities, because we want to start, just like we're trying to build a culture internally within the city around using data and performance ideas, we really want to be building that across our whole community, because if we're speaking the same language, we're going to do a lot better job of being able to kind of navigate the decisions that have to be made. Natalie?
Yeah. So I want to share some resources with you. Of course, we are on the city's webpage. Again, we're a division of IT services. We've got a quarterly newsletter that will be starting in November. I can't wait. You can reach out directly to us at the team's email address, or you can reach out directly to Eric at the given address that you see right here. And we'll make sure that Ms. Mills gets a copy of this presentation to disseminate to everyone. And so we're at the point of discussion. I've got 3 questions up here. I wanted to really hone in on the 3rd question because we do want to be a support to folks in the community that are in service in the form of serving on the advisory board or commission. And so what are some of the ways that the Office of Data and Performance can support you in your work? We are available as a resource. We are partnering with different folks in the community. We've got a partnership with Dr. Tamari Macon over at Mayheck and the UNC School of Health. We were guest lecturers at our health policy class. We are supporting some of the reparations efforts work regarding collecting data sets along with our other colleagues in IT. And so we want to be of service to you all in some way. So are there some ways in which we can support you in your work?
Yeah, this is Dwayne. Where did this presentation come from? I'm curious because this came out of the blue for me, and that's one part. And then the other part is we've been talking. A few of the commissioners been talking about the commissioners being like a report card for all these different African American projects that's going on around the city, and seeing how we could try to just figure out what's all going on, and then trying to measure the effectiveness of these different initiatives that's focused on African American history and culture. And then most importantly, how do we help monetize those initiatives to where those monies goes back into these areas that we are highlighting through these historical markers and different projects. And what does that look like? My other thing is a lot of people I never heard of y'all. I don't know, y'all new. This is brand new for me. I never heard of this. And the only thing I know about statistical things is the state of Black Asheville. How would this overlap or add some capacity to that particular initiative that was started over there at UNCA? And how do we get young people involved in measuring and being involved in this so that we grow in the next crop of leaders who understand how this technology can be used to benefit their communities?
You want to start, or do you want me to lead on that, Natalie?
I'll let you take the lead, Eric.
Okay. So as far as where this came from, we are doing a bit of a roadshow meeting with all of the different commissions just to introduce ourselves and get you thinking about whether there are some ways for us to support your work, and just generally to be aware and pass on to the communities that you're involved in what we're doing and how it may apply to them. I think there was a lot there. So to the second point, we would be delighted if there is an effort like that where where you all are trying to work on building a scorecard or tracking things. We would be delighted to help support you in that process with tools, thinking about how to approach it and so on. At any point through Ms. Mills, you can bring us in on anything like that. And to the third one, we actually, as our first involvement in supporting the reparation process was actually to gather data for Dr. Mullen, who was the UNCA professor who originally kind of started that State of Black Asheville project, working with his students each year. We began working with Dr. Mullen to prepare some data for his presentation at one of the truth-telling sessions, information sharing and truth-telling sessions, and have continued to work with Dr. Mullen to gather the data to be able to provide to the community and to the commission when it forms for the reparations process. So this is hopefully by being a resource for, in some cases, gathering data, in other cases, just identifying. We really see ourselves as a collaborator with efforts both within the city, within the county, but also very much in the community, which is why we want to work with people like Dr. Mullen, Dr. Macon, and others to support their efforts.
Right. And there's another layer. When you talk about communities, what platforms are you using inside these communities that people would even know who you are and know where to give the input to track the data? That don't exist right now that I see, but I'm curious to know how you plan on approaching that.
Well, and that's a really good question. So with speaking to some of the service providers that go out into the community, that was something that they really wanted us to do and partner and be directly available. There are just 3 of us, but even I'll take reparations, for example. I've committed to going with Ms. Mills and some of the other folks that do engagement work to fill out any type of surveys, make sure hard copy surveys are available. We've also talked about making sure that media outlets that tend to be patronized by certain demographic groups, whether it's listening to WRES or making sure that churches have hard copies of announcements, or making sure that Hola Carolina has materials in Spanish and knows who we are and where we are. We're open to any and all suggestions when it comes to gathering data and doing that type of work. So that's number 1. And number 2, we had the opportunity, because you mentioned young people. We had a Kayla intern that was working within IT. It was her second tour within IT, a very smart and bright young woman. And she had a technical project with Eric and Cameron, and she had an engagement project with me. And so we devised a listening session, and she helped us with the questions. And so we had 35 young people as a captive audience, and we just listened to them. We listened to them and their, them telling us stories about their parents and trying to navigate not just access to city services, but access to services, period. And so a lot of those things were outside of our remit, right? Because we don't do health and human services and medical services and things like that. But we know a lot of people that do. And so we wanted to make sure that Ms. Alex Mitchner, who coordinates the Kayla program for the city, got that information that we gathered for them, for those kids, for those young people, I should say, because they are young adults. Gathered that information so they could have those resources on hand. And I use that as an example to say that we are committed to doing that type of work, but we are also committed to listening to leaders such as yourself that, you all know your communities. I mean, I know the community that I live in, but I don't know Burton Street. And so if any suggestions that you might have regarding platforms or any type of engagement where we can gather the data and explain who we are and what we do, we are certainly open to that.
And just to add to that, second Natalie's call for, we love suggestions, but we're also really looking for ways that maybe we haven't done things in the past. We had a conversation a couple days ago with the manager of Buncombe County Library Special Collections about partnering with them and using libraries as one of the places that we can provide materials through the libraries, maybe show up for events. That's just one example of the kind of thing where we can partner with other groups, other agencies, community groups, and hear what are the best ways to learn from the communities themselves, and also what are the best ways to communicate. And obviously, we're going to do that in collaboration with our communications and public engagement. I think, in fact, I would say one of the watchwords for this group is we don't really want to do anything on our own. Our whole mode is going to be to go out and collaborate and partner, whether that be internally with the various departments. We don't see ourselves as a division of IT. We see ourselves as IT partnering with a number of different departments in order to improve how we as a city are operating. And I think we want to think the same way when we're talking about partnering with community groups.
I have a question. Aaron Griffin. As far as, do you guys come up with the questions for the survey, or, I mean, how does that work? Because you say you're doing like the reparations. So, I mean, what type of questions are on the survey? I'm just curious.
So one thing I want to be really clear about is that we are supporting the reparations process. We are definitely not the lead on that. There's a project manager who's been hired to lead that process, obviously under the direction of Ms. Mills and the equity department. So we would, on something like a survey, we often will, I think, come in either advising on some of the questions, but also helping with the analysis afterwards. But whoever is in charge of the particular program or service or question would be the one leading, actually driving the survey.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, for example, just for clarity for myself, if I wanted to do this service and I said, well, one of the questions is like, how can we have a vibrant African American community in Asheville, and how would this be better off, right? Sort of like with the same 4 questions that you had up there. Mm-hmm. So you would take this data with these questions for me again, so I can better understand.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the process?
So as an example, if that's, you've got a series of questions like that, we would work with whoever if that were community and economic development or the equity office, whoever was kind of leading that effort, we'd probably go in and help analyze the data, try and identify some specific outcomes that people are naming. Very often what we find is, well, we may have a lot of disagreement about what we should do. If you get people talking about what they want it to be like and what outcomes we look like, we often can find that we have a lot more agreement about that. And so we identify that, start talking about how are we going to measure it, and then also mine that data. And that's a great example of data that wouldn't be numeric. It's people, that's narrative data. That's people kind of trying to express their ideas for what might improve and make for a more vibrant African American community. We would look there and try and help pull out some strategies and ideas that then could be taken to the next stage and turned hopefully into action. Does that help?
Yes, that helps a lot. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
So another question. This is great. So what if we find that the data shows that for it to be vibrant and for the community to be better and for Asheville to be better, that it's actually, we could talk businesses, homes, restaurants, actual community that is African American. What if we found in the data that this is what the people want, that they want to have something that they feel like this their own. And not only is that it helps contribute to Asheville, which we all love. We all here, you know, and it helps contribute in a lot of ways. So after we find this data and it says that, you know, this is what we want, then this is when the action takes place, right?
Yep, and so you know, there's obviously we're staff in the city, and we're not city council, and we're not the voters. So part of our job is to make sure that, you know, if that's what the data says, then we want to make sure that we've done a good job of capturing that and expressing it, so that it can be taken into both on the community side and in city council. Okay, this is what we're hearing. What are we going to do next? And then I think another part of our role would then be, if there is a program or an initiative that comes out of that the city is doing, then helping make sure that we're finding good ways to make sure that that program is actually accomplishing what it sets out to accomplish.
Thank you.
Other questions?
You got an example of this working?
Of I'm just trying to so by this,
like the question.
yes.
Okay, so the data came out and said this, and you took the data to, you know, I said I didn't know y'all work for the city, so you took this data to the city, and then some resources and something changed for real, because the communities I'm going to talk to about this, they're gonna be like really, what's gonna change? Like they need to see something change before they take another survey. So I'm just, you got an example where this actually worked?
So as an office, we've only been around for a few months, so we don't have a long story.
Oh yeah, I knew. Oh yeah, we're rookie in the game.
Yeah,
okay.
we are new.
I understand.
There are, I mean, certainly, you know, if we think about something like results-based accountability as a way of going about things, then there are certainly success stories there. And I think just from a common sense perspective, if we are kind of clearly stating what outcome we're looking for, clearly stating how we're going to be measuring along, and being consistent in our communication, I think a lot of this is about improving the way the city works. So this is not to claim that this is how we've been doing it, you know, and so you should just believe us that it works, because that clearly is, there's a lot of work. We were brought in, or we were formed because we would like to change the way we are working, and we would like to have better mechanisms for holding ourselves accountable and for allowing the community and city council to hold us accountable, if that makes any sense.
I would like to say thank you very much for this information and the Office for Data and Performance, because this is something that I actually have so many questions sometimes, all the time, and trying to sort of figure out, because I like solutions and I like results. And there hasn't been a place, and I've been to the chamber and different places trying to get the information I need, but it's not what I need. And I really appreciate the fact that you all are going the extra mile so that we actually can get data that we can use to really impact and make a difference. And I'm listening to all the information and the things that you have, you know, the tools that you're using and the access. And I really believe that this can actually be a game changer for the community moving forward. So I am greatly appreciative to what you're doing, and I will be reaching out because I already have something I'd really like for you to look into for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the kind words, Councilwoman Kilgore. Well, go ahead.
So let's say, like Councilwoman Kilgore, we say, let's go for it. What's the next move?
So I think if there are specific initiatives that you're working on and would like to ask for our support, like I said, our primary role is less to be kind of an office where you go and everybody can come and get their data analysis and data. I would love to do that. There are 3 of us, and there are more needs than we know what to do with. So our approach is much more, let's help you bring these processes to your own work. Let's teach you how to do it. Let's give you resources and tools. And when it comes to gathering data, sometimes we may be able to go out and find the data. We've been doing a lot of that as preparation to support the reparations process. But also, part of what we're doing there is we are working with Dr. Mullen, we are working with Dr. Macon. We're trying to partner with other organizations in our community so that it's not all just on 3 people or the IT department. It really becomes a collective effort. And in the case of many of those data sets, and you'll certainly see this with what we've done with reparations, once we find things, we want to put it out there for everybody to use and make sure that it's really accessible for everybody to use.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing. We want this accessible for you all to use because I don't know what the outcome it is that you're trying to achieve. You know that outcome. And so if you have that data available, you work backwards. You say, I want this. So speed bumps. We always use speed bumps as the example because everybody wants speed bumps, right? And so let's say you gather the data and you gather your petitions and you make your request to the transportation department. You have that data and you have proven, okay, we've had 3 or 4 accidents in 2 weeks on our street, right? You make the petition, you use data to support that request, and you get your speed bumps, right? That's the outcome that you want. The impact of that and how you measure it being successful is that you have more kids playing on the street. You have more people outside, conversing and engaging with each other. You have less accidents. So it's about defining what outcome it is that you would like to see achieved, using that data that we make available. This is just an example, using the data that we make available. And then you yourself, you're building the relationship with Ms. Mills, you're building the relationship with Councilwoman Kilgore, you're building a relationship with us and empowering yourself and empowering the community that you live in to advocate for the outcome that you would like to see achieved.
And just to build on that example, we might come in, so the outcome is not a speed bump. The outcome is safety. The outcome is a safer street, right? And so we might come back and have conversation. Let's make sure that we're talking about what we really want. And then we may have we may have experts come in and say, actually, this other approach might be a better way of achieving what you're really looking for. And so helping think past the immediate means of achieving the end to what is the actual end we're looking for and how do we tell that? That's another place where we may come in and help. Just think that through so that we don't end up, speed bumps. That may be the right answer, but let's not get so focused on the solution that we've decided on before we're really agreed on what the end is that we're trying to achieve. And that's, by the way, this is, you think Office of Data and Performance, and we're in the IT services department, and it's all technical. There are plenty of technical things that we do. Mostly this is about common sense, learning how to think through carefully, what are we trying to achieve? How do we know if we're being successful? And that's not technical, that's just good disciplined thinking. And we all, I think it's helpful for all of us to have tools. I can get carried away by my enthusiasm with just like anybody else. And I need, some structure to bring me back and say, okay, Eric, what were you actually trying to accomplish here? Well, thank you so much. It is so much more fun when people want to talk. So thank you so much for questions and being willing to spend your valuable time listening to us and asking us questions.
One other thing, contact information. Is it possible, Brenda, you can put that in the chat?
I think Ms. Mills is the only one with the power to put things in the chat.
We will not be chatting on live meetings. So I'll be glad to email all that to you in the morning. I'll be glad to do that. I'm supposed to be getting the presentation, so I'm going to forward that to them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for your presentation. It was awesome, enlightening, very useful. And thanks for empowering us and giving us, some resources, because we need them. And we really appreciate you guys spending time with us this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Next, any questions, concerns, anything?
Hey, this is Michael Hayes. No questions, but I do have a comment. I think it's imperative for us to take the information that they just shared and utilize it to the best of our ability. Now, we know that data creates results. And so if we are going to really represent the community as a whole, now we're talking with the African Heritage Commission. So I think it's imperative for us to take what they're willing to offer, share that with the community, because there's so many aspects of the Black community that could use this opportunity to get data for results. We're talking, and I know we most of the time we're talking about either our heritage for community, the culture, and the arts. But let's say Mr. Oliver, he has the Black Men's Monday meeting. So him being able to disperse this information to those leaders who are part of that meeting can be so impactful to what we're trying to do as a community. So for me, as running Umoja and just being a part of the substance use and mental health and the culture of the arts, Dwayne Barton, it's so much that we could do with data. And I've seen what data can do. Data can make people wake up to us to producing results. There are other people that use data, and they use data from our communities to get money. So why not we take this information to disperse to those organizations that we know that in existence that don't get the funding because they don't have the data. So without the data, it's like, okay, how are you proving that your program works? How are you proving that your services work?
That's right.
We have the ability to do that. So I love the presentation. I didn't have a lot of questions to ask because I know the power of data.
Exactly.
Data, whichever way you choose to say it.
and that's so true. That's so true, Mike, what you were saying, as far as, because there's a lot of programs where they have monies available. And like you said, if you go in just talking, this is what we want, this is what we need, you'll never get there. But if you go in there with numbers, it changes the whole complexion of things. And that's the reason I was because I don't know, I always want to when he started talking about that, because like I said, I've been trying to research data in our community, and a lot of data we get is national and it's not from Asheville. You know what I mean? Now we have access to that data, and that is really powerful. So, and that's been really hard for me, like I said, because I've tried different places. Give me some information on this. And the numbers, that they give you does not reflect our community. So, how do you deal with that? So now we have a place that we can go and hopefully, like you said, make some changes.
And people want to see outcomes.
That's right.
People that have money want to see outcomes.
Yep.
Even the effect that you have, the impact that you have on just, I got to call out Mr. Stephen Blunt, the outcomes, the impact that he had just being in the school as a Black male.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? How many lives did he touch and how many lives did he make better? Just imagine if he collected that data. You know what I mean?
As I say, you take that data and you multiply how many,
Yes.
you put that many in, and what it can actually, change the complexion. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's imperative for us to look at it through a different lens. I know numbers, like some people like numbers are just numbers, but numbers reflect who we're going to touch, how we're going to touch them.
Yeah.
And us being the African American Heritage Commission, we have the ability to touch a lot of people.
Yes.
Especially when people know that we exist and that we are here and the work that we're doing.
Exactly.
That's another conversation though. Let me stop.
Okay, anyone else? All right. So our next scheduled meeting is supposed to be November the 11th, but it's a city holiday. So we'd like to talk about perhaps changing the day, maybe that Wednesday, or like, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine, Chair Griffin. This is Brenda Mills, City Liaison. I was looking up some dates, possible dates. I'll call those out in those times of the week, and you can talk about it amongst yourselves and see what works for you. So, like our chair said, November 10, November 10, which is a Wednesday. The following Wednesday, November 17th, Monday the 29th, or Tuesday the 30th. Now, Monday the 29th is right after Turkey Day, so you probably want to avoid that. And then that Tuesday the 30th, we don't have a council or a Board of Commissioners meeting that would interfere with this meeting. So what would be your pleasure?
My pleasure would be the 11th, but
You mean the November 10?
November the 10th. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes. It depends on everybody else, but that's what I would look at, the 10th, that Wednesday.
10th is fine with me.
Okay. Does that work for everyone else? Anyone got?
10th could work for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work.
That
Excellent.
works, yes.
Thank y'all. I will get that changed on the calendars. So look for some information next week. So thank you. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Is it a?
Huh?
No, I was saying to Aaron, are we adjourned?
Yes, we are.
But Brandon had a comment.
We need to take public comment.
Public comment.
Do we have public comment?
We do not have, hold on just a second. Let me double check. We do not have anyone on the line, nor did we receive any comments prior to the meeting. So we have none for now.
Hey, Brenda, I do have something. I would like all the commissioners to take that survey that the TDA has put out about trying to get input for the African American community around these historical markers that they're going to put from East End down to Depot Street. They need us to take a glance at that and give back any input. And the last day is tomorrow. So you can go to the TDA website. Sorry, I don't have the link. I was hoping Ms. Catherine Mitchell was going to be here. She could give you a specific link. But she's tied in real close with that project. But it'd be good that we all can go just read through that information and give them comments about how they plan on representing African American history in the city.
Can I add
send
a
that.
comment as well?
Mhm.
And this is Leonard Jones, the Buncombe County liaison. Also, I believe y'all will receive invitations from the Buncombe County Remembrance Project historical markers that's supposed to be held on Saturday, October the 30th. It starts at 10 a.m. at Pack Square, and these are the markers to recognize racial terror and justice in America. And so it'll highlight it'll be markers which will show remembrance to the lynchings that happened here in Buncombe County. We have 3 markers going up in the area. 2 will be downtown. One is on corner of College Street and Market Street, I believe. One will be in Triangle Park, and the third one will be down in the River Arch District. That event is on Saturday, October the 30th to 21st again. Another thing I would like to bring to the commission as well is that Buncombe County is about to begin a comprehensive plan for Buncombe County. I believe the city of Asheville may have did one maybe a few years back. And so they're looking for, it's a 20-year vision and plan. And so just like they were talking about collecting data and looking for feedback, Buncombe County, along with its planning from transportation, affordable housing, public safety, equity, tourism, greenways, all that's going to be discussed in the vision for Buncombe County, basically 2043. And so they're really reaching out to the community. As a native myself, we realize a lot of African Americans are finding themselves out more in the county jurisdiction. And so just being a part of that vision and plan for the county, they're strongly seeking that input and feedback. And one part of it, we're actually looking for, I believe they're gonna call them around community ambassadors. And those are like community experts that know their community the best way, how to reach out to them, have meetings to gather this information so that it can be incorporated in this vision and plan. And so we're strongly encouraging, especially communities that's been hard to reach and left out of this process. This is the first time the county has been on a 20-year vision plan, a comprehensive plan. And so they intentionally and very strongly seeking out public input from the county. So even if you're in Asheville, you may find yourself out in the county within the next 20 years. We want you to just have your feedback. And so there'll be future events coming ahead, but if you're very interested or know other people that would be very influential in becoming like a community ambassador, please reach out to me, and so that we can find out more on how they can participate in that process and be a part of this 20-year comprehensive plan. Another update from the county is that we just hired a Chief Equity and Human Rights Officer. Her name is Rachel Edens, and she'll be coming on staff with Buncombe County at the beginning of November. And she will head up the equity and inclusion team with the county, as well as just across the organization and in the community as well. So we'd greatly love to have y'all to welcome her to the community. And just for her, she's from Eastern North Carolina, and so she'll be starting her position on November the 1st. Thank you.
Leonard, just a question. The ambassador that you're talking about, will there be any kind of compensation for those people?
That has been part of the discussion, and so I think they're still kind of working through that process. I know that's been with a lot of the task force work plans. They're trying to figure out that compensation piece to it. So that's very much in part of the conversations right now. And so as that issue will be ironed out with discussions, but they're looking into leaning into that option, but they're looking at how they can do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
No problem.
Any more comments? All right. So our next regular meeting Wednesday, November the 10th, 2021. And it remains virtual. Check on the city's engagement hub for more directions on how to participate. And at this time, I will now adjourn the meeting unless there's any objections.
I don't want to object, but I do want to add one thing. On our next meeting, can we really start to think about our strategic planning? You know, like what are we going to do? What are we here for? I don't know if that's going to take us having a retreat or whatever, but can us as the commission like really set our mind on what we're trying to do and how we're trying to bring the community to understand who we are, what we are, and what we're trying to do.
Yes, it's fine with me. So I'm sure this is going to take a lot of discussion. So I'm not sure how we want to go about doing that. Anybody got any suggestions?
Chair Griffin,
Yes.
let's me and you and Vice Chair Miller talk that out. If we can get the North Carolina African American Heritage person to come in, I think that would be a good teaser for your retreat. And then maybe we send out a document that folks can kind of start working on, putting ideas down, and then we'll have that ready for your next meeting. Does that sound like a good plan?
That's a good plan. Vice Chair and I, we had a meeting with the director just not too long ago, and she gave us a lot of pointers. And one of them, the main thing was the strategic plan. And
you met with the North Carolina?
Yes.
Person? Okay.
Yes.
How long ago has that been?
That was Monday, this past Monday.
Okay. Alrighty. So do you want her to come and speak to you, or can you just fill me in? Can we meet and you fill me in on what you think we should do, or?
Yes, I can meet with you. And also, you know, she's offered to come to any meeting. She will come and speak. She's ready to go whenever we say. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I could meet with you guys, if you could provide me some availability in the next 2 weeks, and then I'll be glad to set that up so she can come, and then we'll look at what we can do in November, December. You probably need to spread that out a couple of meetings.
Okay.
So sounds good.
So we should talk to him, because I can forward you some of the information that she sent. To everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
It was kind of interesting because she said our commission is set up a lot like Winston-Salem. So.
All righty.
Yeah. All right. Any objections? No?
Nay.
Nay. So adjourn. Hey, thank you. This was awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.